Welcome to all of our friends all over the social medias, on Facebook, on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We are really excited today to bring you a special EdTech collaborative event with our good friends from InSpace. I am joined by a number of folks that aren't even on this slide today because when we do these live streams, people tend to just creep on into those DMs like Ryan Lufkin. Ryan, thank you very much for joining us. But we are joined by Narine, Mike, Jared, and Ryan. Narine and Mike are both from the InSpace team. Ryan, product marketing in higher ed. Jared Stein, the VP of higher ed strategy. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Before we get started, Ryan, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about this with Jared as well. I told Narine and Emmy and Mike, the team earlier when I got a demo, I get pretty excited when I see something I really like. Yep. Something that's very clean, user interface is nice. It has some engagement pieces. I taught career in tech ed. I taught high school with a little dual credit in higher ed as well. I have never, and I'm not just saying this because they're here in the room. I've never seen anything like this. It felt very human to me. It was like taking the virtual experience we all know and love from Zoom and Google Hangouts and some of our partners, Big Blue Button, things like that, but like making it an extremely human experience. Like I was engaged. It forced me to be a part of an experience that I've never been a part of before. So everyone joining us today is going to get a real treat because I think we're going to do the demo right up front. So
that's the reason I jumped in and unannounced, and I'm so excited about the work that Narine and Mike have done, their team, and the integration. It's such a cool tool. I don't want to steal any of their thunder by saying anything else. I will just quietly sit in the background and listen.
I think my mind was immediately blown, Jared. We had very similar reactions. Like we saw this thing and like immediately I'm like I'm tweeting at people, I'm contacting them like, do not miss this session because you are going to be blown away by what's about to happen.
Yep, cool.
Yeah, and here's why I think it's so important that we're having this session and we're looking at this technology. Prior to joining Instructure, almost 10 years ago, my entire career was in higher education, building and developing fully online course and degree programs. And there was a reason why the vast majority of those learning experiences were asynchronous. It provided a better experience when you compared it to a remote or a distance synchronous experience. But I'll tell you, when I saw InSpace, when I actually got into it, I realized that maybe we were wrong. Maybe there actually is a way to do synchronous online learning that is both intuitive and organic, but also tears down those barriers between people, which is what we feel when we get into a Zoom or the like.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest, pieces of feedback we've heard is that social aspect, that connection with other learners is one of the biggest pieces missing in the classroom over the last year of the pandemic.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the way of Narine and Mike showing the product. We'll shut up with our hype.
Exactly.
And let the product speak for itself.
Listen, Jared, Ryan, I'm a great hype man, but I also will not hype you unless I love it. And you've already got a ton of people already in the chat today loving Narine and Mike, the InSpace stuff. InSpace changes the online virtual class experience. Excited to see how it integrates with Canvas. Kylie King here says, agreed, Elaine. Congratulations, InSpace team. And lots of folks joining us all across the world on all of our social media channels. Really looking forward to this. So let's get out of the way because I'm so excited. There's a lot of people tuning in and they're like, Eddie, shut up and let them get to work, which is fine because it needs to happen.
Shut up and let them get to work.
Let's do it. All right, Narine, Mike, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We're really excited to share the platform with everybody today. I do want to just quickly say I just love being part of this experience because we have worked with so many incredible educators through this experience. And I want to send out a huge thank you to all the educators out there who have come together and they've really helped us to build this. I want to give credit to everybody. It's like crowdsourcing the idea and really just building this dream platform for all of us educators who are looking to innovate and create new solutions. All right, without further ado, let's run into the demo and then we'll go from there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen, and what we'll do, we'll drop into an InSpace session and just kind of see what my teammates are doing there. Okay, just quickly, it's very easy to join InSpace. For us, the seamless interaction was like really important. So like all you have to do is just click on the link and you show up in here. You can see your microphone. You can set things up right before you join in. You can actually configure whatever settings you like. And then whenever you're ready, you can just go ahead and click join, and that's it. Now, there's no need for you to download any software. You don't have to do any installations, no updates. All of that is taken care of. All right, we're in InSpace. You can see that I have my video circle. This is Emmy, my colleague who just jumped out of the breakout room to come say hello to me. Hi, Emmy. I see you. Right here, so one of the things is like when you're in a physical classroom, you can actually see everybody, you can see what's going on. And that's like really important for social cues. Like right now, I have two of my colleagues joining me. Hi, Ganesh. Hi there. Our CTO is right there too. And we can just click on our bubbles, we can talk. We have something called proximity-based audio. So as I move away from them, my sound goes slowly down. And you can see some of the reactions, but when I'm far away from them, I can't actually hear them. So they can have a conversation together. And as I get close to them, I can actually hear them and I can see them. So just like this, we can all be part of one experience, and all kind of belong to the same classroom, same space, but we can also have one-on-one conversations just like in a physical classroom. When we started this, our main goal was like everything I should be able to do in my classroom, I should be able to do in here. And our goal was to never, ever disrupt the educator's process virtually, but create a place that we disrupt software to give the educators this experience. Okay, so notice how we have like a few rooms and I can hop into any one of the rooms. These are audio isolated rooms. So when I'm in this room and I'm talking with Haikanush here, no one else outside can hear us. And in the middle, it's like the hallway. It's proximity-based audio. I can come in here and talk to Emmy, but I can also drop into this group in here that I can see Emmy sharing something on this room. I can pop in here and I can see what they're doing. And I can just zoom into this room, have conversations here with my teammates and just kind of say hello. And I can also just like zoom out and see what is happening in the other spaces. All right, cool. Let's see. So a few other things, like you can, for example, broadcast. You can speak loud so everybody in the space can hear you. And you can also have different configurations. Like from the top in here, as an administrator, I can pick different configurations and we can go into presentation room. We can have a different number of rooms. Let's go into our presentation room. Or maybe let's see if I want to ask Amy to take us there. I see that in this room, my colleagues are actually sharing a Google document. So notice that they can all type in here and collaborate together in this area. There we go. We are in a presentation room. We all take a seat. Notice that I can just say, go to the room and they'll assign me a seat. Accessibility is very important to us. So this entire space can be navigated with the keyboards, and you can also assign people who are like offer assistance or kind of have different accessibility features in here, closed captioning and interpretation with a larger video and more. So on the side, you have this chat. It's a multi-channel chat, so you can actually talk to individuals or everybody together. And one of the things we heard from educators is that they actually sometimes like to turn the chat off and sometimes on. So we allow them to decide on that. You can see who is in here. For each individual, you can actually open big video, for example, if you want to see someone larger and like maybe this is a person who does interpretation or anything like that. So you can decide where to put this, etc. And you can also have some other features from here. You can do thumbs up and etc. So notice when you do thumbs up, it's like on the person, not on your video, which is kind of more traditional. Cool. Mike, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, this is great. I think a lot of times when we see professors facilitating sessions in here, they'll stand in front of the board like Narine is. And when students have questions, they'll pop themselves up and raise their hand. When students are laughing, in addition to using the emojis, they'll bounce themselves up and down and shake their videos around to show excitement. We've heard stories about when professional development is happening here and a teacher's having a bad day, folks moving their circles around and giving virtual virtual hugs to folks. We found that this ability for both the student and the professors to move themselves around, the agency that gives back to students really helps people feel connected to their classroom, feel connected to their peers. And that sense of belonging is what also really helps drive engagement here.
Yeah, and one of the things is that, so when we started the platform, it was really cool. Where like a lot of educators had so many great ideas, and a lot of these features that you see here came from people from all over the country, from different schools. And Champlain College was the first one, and I'm like incredibly lucky to have this most innovative colleagues who really just jumped in and started offering different suggestions on like what would really work in their classroom. And so our goal was like not to create anything that wouldn't work in a real classroom, but like really just, it's not a collection of features. It's something that you use in your classroom. It complements your classroom flow. And it really just makes educators feel comfortable just running virtual events and doing different things. And the other thing we noticed is like all the different creative uses. For example, we had history professors. They were using different backgrounds to travel to different areas. They would, for example, use like a historic scene, and they'll change the background and go there. So let me just quickly take away our rooms in here. So now we have proximity-based audio, but we can travel to different parts. And right now we have the screen sharing in the middle, but we can take that out as well. And people can have more immersive experience while they are learning.
Yeah, one of the things that we've heard from professors all over the country and the world is that it's really hard to teach your class when you sign in online and all of a sudden everybody that's waiting for you there has their videos off, they're muted, and nobody participates and just waits until your PowerPoint presentation starts. It doesn't feel like a classroom. And here with some of this audio proximity features where folks can go run off to different sides of the classroom to check in with each other about what was the score of the Red Sox game last night, or how did you do last night? And those kind of casual moments that happen before lessons start, in between lessons, really help build a sense of community. And
yeah,
so,
a couple of the things that I really love from what you guys have shown so far is, one, that use of backgrounds. Even though that might feel kind of superficial at a first glance, it actually is really powerful. And I love the example of the history professor, because now what you're essentially saying is that instead of students just using a tool to access a learning experience, they're actually going to a destination. And that destination feels like something. It feels like something from both the background, but also from the fact that there are other people there that can move around, can connect with each other, even before class has even started.
I love the background piece, Jared. And sorry, the tool, I'm not meaning to, it's like a Mike Wazowski. When I put a comment up, Jared just disappears because it's over his face. I'm sorry about that, Jared. But I definitely want to also dive into this comment from Elaine on YouTube that says, InSpace has allowed us to do group work much easier in a virtual environment. Yeah. It is something that I brought up when I first saw it. I was like, man, that piece where people are working in groups and teachers want to walk around the room and discuss with other groups, just having this space to be able to do, even if it's not in a breakout room, hey, 3 of you can go to this corner of the screen and 4 of you can go up here, and then I can move around as the teacher and just kind of listen in to those conversations. And I loved the what did you call the audio? Is it spatial audio, or the awareness of kind of moving in and hearing the audio kind of fade in as you move around the room? We're not able to show that today, but it is really incredible to see.
Yeah, we're using. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Narine.
I was going to say, we're using machine learning to create this proximity-based audio. So when you get close to people, you can hear them. As you slowly walk away from them, it slowly goes down. So it's more natural. And like if you're in between 2 conversations, you can sort of get a glimpse of both conversations and decide which way to go. Just like in a physical space when you're mingling in a groups and having conversations. And for me as a professor, it was really important to see where my students are. When I started, like when I tried this in Zoom and students were stuck in these different breakout rooms, I couldn't see them. Like I couldn't know how well they're doing. It was like a little bit disconnecting experience, and they couldn't just come and ask me questions. And with this, I can see them. And by the way, there's a little bubble when they talk around their circle. So from outside, I can see that they're talking, they're interacting. And when they get quiet, it's a perfect time for me to go in and have a conversation with them.
And I can tell from the comments in this stream that a lot of folks are already familiar with InSpace, and you guys have done a good job of showing us some of the cool things about InSpace. I think that it might be helpful to step back for just a minute and talk through some of the main use cases of InSpace. So obviously it's a space where people can come together and learn from an instructor who might be broadcasting, who might be sharing some visuals, and talk through some of the other use cases though for InSpace.
Yeah, so one of the things that we quickly realized is it works really nice in a classroom environment where you can just create a virtual classroom experience, but also a lot of people started using it for their virtual office hours. And we heard that it works so well that because more students are actually showing up to virtual office hours because they're not as intimidated, or maybe it's like the barriers of just walking across the campus to see your professor. And like, somehow virtually it was more comfortable, and especially for students who might have been shy normally to kind of show up and ask questions. And then tutoring hours were a huge hit because like, you know, they literally set up these different breakout rooms, and they'll have intro to Python here, intro to statistics here, and like tutors will be on all these different rooms, and the student would just go in there. It's like a self-service place. Like you just literally go ask all your questions, get your homework done, and then get out. And the other thing we noticed is that students would literally use these spaces for a hangout. Like they'll literally just go in there, see who else is in the room, what's going on. And that was really cool. Like, so it sort of became this virtual study space where you can drop in anytime and see where your classmates are and what's going on. We have also seen some schools doing admission tours. Like Champlain College has used a lot of admission tours where you'd have different backgrounds with different buildings in the campus, and people will literally go through between all of them. And I know we had pretty big boost in admission applications this year.
I love it. And that comes back to that idea of it being a destination. You know, I think that example of it being a space where people can come and join a study session is really powerful. You know, if you hop into any video conferencing session that's already in progress, you kind of jump in the middle of a conversation, you're waiting to see what's happening, you're looking for a way to get a word in edgewise. But with this and the idea that there can be these separate rooms within a space, a student or a tutor can hop in, see what's happening in these different spaces, choose the one that's most appropriate for them, or maybe even go to one that's not started a conversation yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you first enter the room, you're on the side and you can see like the presentation room, and then you actually drag yourself into it. It's sort of more intentional. Okay, now I'm entering into the room, so that feels really good.
Yeah, and it's picked up across campus on a lot of different areas, as Narine mentioned. Career services, you want to invite 6 different companies in to do a career night. You can have these different stations that students can loop around to. If you're having students come to meet with other current students, like who are in the admissions process, it's a more natural way to connect in those ways. And it's fun to hear how different universities are getting creative in a lot of different ways with it.
I love the group
Jared.
activity aspect of it too. And this came up in the comments, and you guys showed how within a single room, right, a group of students may be working on something. You showed how Google Docs might be the thing that they're working on. But talk a little bit more about how student groups can be productive, whether they're part of a scheduled class session or working on their own through that room capability.
Yeah, so, you know, as we all kind of get ready to go back to classrooms, some in person and virtually, I think one of the things is like how to create those spaces where students can easily collaborate. And so we have really, in my PhD career, I did a lot of research on collaboration and how humans interact, and where it's like flawless collaboration versus like really forced interactions. So creating that environment where like it's safe, comfortable for people to come in and have conversation is really important. So one thing we realized that if you give people seamless, frictionless experience, they're more likely to enjoy it and they're more likely to engage with it. And engagement is really important for us. So for example, with Google Drive integration, what we have done is you can just open a Google document and all the students right there in the presentation room can edit it together without ever having to go to a different tab. And we all have played so much with shuffling the tabs and losing where the screen sharing is. And we sort of eliminated all of that. So it's frictionless, it's easy. And I have seen students do pair coding together. They literally just code together. And as we go back to classroom, you know, we are still going to need those tools. Where like in a physical classroom, I had the same thing where if 2 students are working on the same code and they need to share, it's always a challenge. Like, how do they actually do it? They literally move into the same computer and it's really close and uncomfortable. And now we have this beautiful place. We can all see the same document and work together without like having to go literally super close to each other.
Yeah, Narine, you mentioned the word frictionless. And I think what we do at Instructure in Canvas really well is integrate a number of tools that are favorites by a lot of folks. And you have a lot of fans here for InSpace today in our chat. Jared, I want you to discuss just briefly, and then maybe Narine can pop into a demo to kind of show the integration with Canvas, because we do have some questions on that. But I want to talk about what it means when companies like this decide to partner with us through the EdTech Collaborative, as far as, you know, the power of bringing all of those tools together in kind of one space, which really makes Instructure and Canvas kind of a great learning platform.
Yeah, happy to do that. So Canvas was built from the beginning as an open learning platform, which means that not only do we adhere to open standards to enable partners to integrate, but we also have open APIs as well to deepen those integrations. And for us, you know, the learning management system is a set of core tools and capabilities that enables specific workflows for teaching and learning, and in our world, primarily asynchronously. But the beauty of an open platform is that institutions and departments and even individual instructors can pick the tools that they need for their specific teaching style or teaching philosophy, for their domain, and for the level of students that they're engaging, and have those seamlessly integrated with Canvas. And some partners will integrate at a pretty high level using the LTI standard. Some try to go a level deeper to make it a more seamless and meaningful experience. So that's how we set up Canvas. We really want to enable all of our partners to find success, but the main purpose here is so that teachers and students do have, and I'm going to steal that word, a more frictionless user experience, so that the system interactions stay out of the way of the human interactions.
Yeah, I think so many times we get into, and educators get into being, I don't want to say forced, but into a conversation where they now have to use a tool when they're comfortable with other tools. And I think what we've done really well, and Narine, if you want to go ahead and share your screen again so we can show this demo on the Canvas integration, is allowing that experience to continue in that space. So there aren't separate logins, there aren't separate spaces, there are, like, everything works inside the tool, which makes it so great. And when you have something that seems as seamless as InSpace to use from a user experience standpoint, it really just, I think it's just going to knock it out of the park. So we're really excited that you guys are now a part of this.
Yeah,
as you jump in to show this integration, I'm sorry, Narine. As you jump in to show this integration, I just want to earmark a couple of comments coming into the chat that are asking about the hybrid experience and how you envision enabling hybrid models. And so I think as you go into the Canvas integration, it'll be interesting to look at the marriage of the asynchronous teaching and learning experience with the synchronous. But I think also folks, when they refer to hybrid, may be talking about when some students are live in class and some students are joining remotely. So that might be a different topic, but perhaps as you dig into the Canvas integration, we can think a little bit about blending or hybridizing synchronous and asynchronous learning.
Absolutely. And actually, I do want to comment on that. So, you know, one of the interesting things about InSpace and sort of our goal as a company was, let's take the technology out of the way and let professors and teachers do their best work, because professors and educators are so good at teaching and managing the classroom, and they're really well trained in their different methodologies, pedagogical foundation, like whatever they choose. And so our goal was to never interfere with the, with their process. And so to that end, one of the things that happened is we actually early on in the year, we started getting emails from our customers, especially like Boston College was like really one of the innovators in this stage, and they were like, hey guys, did you know this works really well in a hybrid environment? And we asked them how they use it. So you know how we have the presentation room? they'll literally throw this on the projector in a big classroom where you have hybrid student, basically hybrid environment with in-person students and virtual students. And virtual students are actually sitting in the presentation room. You notice like they're very small circles. So for students who are joining virtually, it's not an intimidating experience because they're not ginormous Zoom squares on a big presentation screen in a real classroom. They're much smaller. It's like more human-sized head. And so when they actually want to participate, virtual students literally just pop on the screen. That movement actually allows everybody else to see that they have something to say. So now they're not getting the side experience of the hybrid classroom. They're actually full participant of this experience. So having this presentation room, so like instead of just presenting your PowerPoint, you're actually presenting the presentation room where like all the students are right there and they have this ability to move in close, really change that hybrid experience. And so, and then from there, basically when you have this mixed group, some are virtual, some are not, you actually have this pretty nice interaction. And the audio isolated rooms actually create this thing where you're actually, you basically don't have echoing in the classroom and, you know, all the wonderful things that happen when you have technology and, you know,
yeah, one other small thing that helps professors and teachers a lot is that with students having the ability to move themselves up, we showed you earlier, stepping up in front of the board to raise their hand. It's there's a few elements like this when you use InSpace in a high flex model that take a few little steps off the teacher and the professor's plate. Because when you're trying to teach in-person students, you're trying to teach remote people, and you're trying to manage the technology, like how can we help share the load for the professor? And so the students' ability to move themselves has really helped a lot with the professors as well.
Yeah, and a good example, my favorite part when I'm teaching is like when I open the breakout rooms for project work and each student gets a number assigned to them. So they know which room they are in. They literally click on their circles, they move into this, and you just, as an instructor, you step back and watch this beautiful synchronous, of organization of everybody into the rooms. And this is also really important for agency. Students feel agency over their experience. They're in charge of their experience. They can be next to whoever they want, or they can go talk to whoever they want. And this is such an important factor for engagement. We know that if students don't feel connected, they're not going to be ready to learn, and active learning only happens when they're engaged. So the fact that they have to move themselves throughout the whole process instead of the teacher just literally dictating the entire process and in a way becoming a Zoom moderator, right? So like this gives students the ability to just have their own experiences and be more engaged and active learners, and also teachers that takes it off their plate so they can actually focus on the content and all of those things. So usually at InSpace, we have this thing where engagement is like really built on 3 pillars. And that's the agency of the experience, so students feel like in charge of their experience. Accessibility, so people feel comfortable, depending, like someone might be too shy in certain environment, they have the ability to participate however they like, through motions, through videos, through audio or whatever. And accountability, for example, if I start breakout rooms and one of the students is not engaged, they actually stay right in the middle, so everybody can see that that student is not engaged. So like they now know that there's accountability, they have to be part of this experience. And we know when they're clicking and engaging, they're more likely to pay attention to what's happening in the classroom. And it's just so easy to drift away to, Twitter and other places that we all use these days. Cool.
And I love how in the live demo before, where we did see students in that one room, we could tell before we even entered that room that they were working on something together, that there was something shared inside of that room. And it happened to be a Google Doc, but it could be a whiteboard, it could be a presentation. I think from an instructor perspective, right, on the one hand, enabling agency, enabling that group collaboration is super important so that they start to feel some ownership and some responsibility for the learning. But on the other hand, as instructors, we still have to do some level of monitoring and keeping folks on task. And I just love how natural and intuitive that is.
Yeah, and the accountability part of that too is also a positive thing. Like students in InSpace know that your professor might pull you aside to check in on you and see how you're doing, ask you about how life is, or in a K-12 space as well. And those types of moments make people feel like they're really part of the community. So the accountability, both to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but also if I know that the people that are my professor cares about me as a person, that also is a huge factor in driving engagement. It's just so much more natural in this type of environment.
Okay, now I can tell we're in Canvas, so I know you're going to talk to us a little bit about the integration. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about this. So one quick thing I want to mention too, like a lot of these ideas, like what you see here, came from a lot of educators who have been using the product. So I want to send a huge shout out there to all our fans. Thank you so much for being so amazing and like really just like energizing us to go and like just work harder, get this there a minute early so we can all use it together. So I just want to send a big shout out to all our fans out there. Okay, so this is what the Canvas integration looks like. So when you have Canvas, and it's super easy to integrate, we want to make this super easy for professors. So if you go to our website and you just say which school you're from, we'll connect with your tech team and get the integration going for you, so you don't have to worry about any of that. So when you go to your course, you see the InSpace on the side. And when you click on that, you can see this, this environment. Now, one of the things that so I love Canvas. I have been using Canvas for ages. It's like my favorite tool. And like, you know, as a professor, I always played with it. I even created, used the open API to create auto grading for my courses. That was like really fun. So for me, like it worked so amazing for asynchronous classes. And in fact, in the spring when we all have were forced to move to virtual, I felt really prepared because all my content was on Canvas, everything looked great, and I was like, I think we got this. And it wasn't until like I had my first Zoom call when I was like, okay, maybe we don't have everything in place. But one of the things that always kind of missed for me was that ability to create community around my courses, so my students can take their conversations with them, because when you're in a classroom, you have a conversation, there's always a follow-up, there's always something else you want to contribute. And some students are too shy to contribute in a real-time discussion in the classroom, but they are very good at like contributing through the chat or conversations. So I have used all sorts of things. I use Slack groups, I use Google groups, everything. It was really clunky experience. So that's what, like, it's always been my dream to create something on Canvas where I can just connect with my students and have this asynchronous conversation, but also ability to check in and have those discussions. Okay, so introducing study spaces. So what is study space? For each course, you have a study space in here on top. And when you go in there, you can see who are in this study space. You can see, like, for example, I can see Amy, Lydia, and Adam are currently in the study space. And I can just click join space and I can join them into this InSpace environment. We can have projects. Imagine it's 11 p.m. and you're working towards a 12 a.m. deadline, which I know a lot of students do. And you just want to check in, see who else is struggling and kind of go join with them and work on this together. It's sort of that feeling of community where like you can just check and see who else is hanging out in this virtual space. And yeah, Mike, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just note if you go to the next, click in there to the join space, so we can see what this looks like. It's defaulted to have some open breakout rooms or study rooms, so students can just pop right in and work with their peers on whatever it is at a time that's convenient to them. Like Narine was saying, if it's hard to drive across the city to meet with your peers for an assignment, or you just really need to connect for a quick conversation, this will always be here for you through Canvas, right where all of your other course information is.
Yep. And the other thing that we heard was like this office hours, professors' office hours. And so this second tab in here that you see, like Dr. Narine Hall's office. So I can set up my office hours in here. I can, down the road, we can also introduce features where you can request time with a professor, or it's synchronized with a calendar, so you can just see what the availability is. And when you do, when the professor is in the office, you actually see a green button in here. And when they're not, you see gray. You can join in there. And whenever you join, yeah,
can I add something about that too? One of the things we're hearing from professors that they love about their in-person office hours is they like to be able to sit in their office, leave their door open, and when students walk by, they can see they're in there, and then they can stop in for some casual conversation or actual help. The little gray circle turning green is meant to mimic that feeling of the professor's door being open, come on in. And then when you click the button, Narine can show you a little bit about what it looks like when you go into that office.
So once you're in the office, it's basically, so you have professor's office and then you have the waiting lounge. And one of the cool things that we heard that happens is like when students are waiting to talk to the professor, oftentimes they start collaborating and working on the assignment before they even get to the professor. And most of the time they actually figure out the answer by themselves, which is kind of a win-win, I would say, as a professor. And so it's really nice to have like a waiting area for them. Now, all of these spaces, the virtual office or the study spaces, they are your InSpace spaces. So they have all the features. So these are just suggested configurations, but you can change them however you like to run your own class. You can change the backgrounds. You can you can make it your own space, so you're comfortable then enjoying it.
Yeah, and the way that these rooms work, so when you're in the professor's office here, those are private conversations. Anybody who's not in there won't hear what's happening. If you share a screen inside of the professor's office, nobody will see what is being shared on that screen. So you can have those private check-ins, but still be able to have some visibility to the waiting lounge. We hear from professors they like when they're in their office and the doors closed, they finish their meeting with a student, they walk out of their office, they see students waiting for them in the hallway, and then they call them back in. And so these are some more of those human elements that we're trying to bring to the virtual space to reinforce that sense of community that everybody is familiar with.
Yeah, and just quickly, so you can see all the images in here. This is like just a visual, but like whenever you're in professor's office, from outside, nobody can see the video of the professor or the student in that office. So it's very private experience. Great. Yeah, and then the third piece of this is like really the third part of the community building with the study spaces is really being able to take your conversations with you after the class. So if you're in the class, you finish the class, maybe you can you're talking about a certain topic, you can create a chat channel where you can continue that conversation and all the students can contribute to it. Whenever a student types in the Canvas chat, it actually also shows in the study space chat in the platform, but it also shows on their mobile phone, because I know a lot of us are using mobile for staying connected with the world. So we wanted to be able to meet students where they are, and they are digital natives usually. And so for us, it was really important to create this really nice, engaging environment where students can stay connected around the course content. So for example, if I come in here, I can create a group discussion around maybe the final project, and I can ask a question and my classmates will get a notification. And with notifications, we're also very careful. We're using machine learning to really understand how many notifications to send and when to send, so you only get your relevant conversations and not be, overwhelmed by it. So that way students can quickly see the answers, and most of the time, like, students will literally answer each other's questions. And even if someone answers incorrectly, like, that's also another way to keep them engaged, because like then everybody else will jump in to help to correct, and then they'll figure out what the answer is. So it's really just creates this asynchronous interaction. So in my mind, like, I'm like so excited about this Canvas integration, because like Canvas is like really amazing with this asynchronous learning as an asynchronous learning tool. But now with InSpace, where you have these virtual spaces where students can just jump in, have conversations. If it's a snow day, I can just tell my students like, hey guys, let's meet in the virtual space instead of, the real classroom, and we can all just we know where to go and where the course is. So in a way, you sort of have your digital classroom available to you whenever you want.
Yeah, and I can see that being super helpful if you're teaching a more traditionally asynchronous, fully online course, or you're just doing a blended course with a lot of in-person interactions, right? Having the ability to engage with users, whether it's teacher to student, student to TA, student to student in groups, you need a space where you can come together, you feel comfortable, the barrier to entry, the technical barrier to entry is super low. And then you also have the capability to actually collaborate, to share, to work on things together. So I love how you guys are enabling that. And that gets to one of the questions I definitely wanted to hear from you on. Certainly for folks who have lived through the past 18 months and have adapted to emergency remote teaching or remote instruction, something like InSpace makes a lot of sense going into the fall. And there will be certainly some instructors who are doing fully remote, fully distance instruction well into the future. I wonder if you can talk a little bit, though, about your vision for InSpace going forward, post-pandemic. How much of it is focused on enabling full remote instruction? How much of it is sort of on that hybrid space where some students might be remote, some students might be in person? How much of it is on enabling or enhancing what would traditionally be asynchronous distance education?
Yeah, so it's such an interesting time in higher ed. Like, I know there's like we've seen a lot of challenges, and higher ed was sort of in this transformation anyway. And I feel like pandemic really accelerated it. And so like in some ways we're like in this crossroads of like sort of what's next, what's the new normal, what does that look like? And I know a lot of us have learned so much. And when you talk to professors, like we're like, it's exciting to be back to classroom, but we're also like, oh, there's certain things that I would totally do differently now that I have been doing before. And I think for us, like as a company, it's really important to stay the educator brand and stay focused to our true like mission, which is like being there for educators no matter what they need, and really just like taking the technology out of the way no matter what setting they're in, and just support them and complement their process. So to that end, like for folks who are going back to classroom, InSpace really just offers this digital spaces where students can hang out, the office hours. They can actually have this in their classroom if they need to do screen sharing, working together, collaborating on the documents. On the other hand, if they're going back to hybrid settings, we have features where they can use that in the hybrid setting. But the other thing that's really exciting for me is overall what's happening with like online education world. I know that online education traditionally is a little bit in a different spectrum than traditional education because it's very asynchronous, it's like low bar, but at the same time, it's very different. So in my mind, where I see like adding some synchronous interactions to online education that's completely asynchronous adds so much value to it, and it sort of pushes it a little bit towards more traditional education, where you get a little bit more of the same value of, we go to school because we want to build community, we want to know our peers. Like my co-founder, we worked with her in the college, and we sort of been through all of coding exercises, etc. And that's how you kind of build your network and you get to know people. And I think bringing that to like sort of this online education world really creates this community feeling around the courses, and that pushes that towards a little bit more traditional education, but it's still not as expensive. So in some ways, I think there's like this whole new market of learners that is being created, and more people will be attending school, can afford school, if we can actually help the online education to get better, like in a way that a little bit closer to traditional education by adding this digital communities. So I'm really excited about that as well. So I think there's like all these different modes of teaching, and our goal is really just be the educator brand and really just support everyone in there. And one of the reasons why I love working with Instructure team in the past few weeks was like when I do the demos, I get the same reactions from people as I do from educators. Like it's that wow factor. It's like, this is amazing, this is going to change like how I do my courses. And I think I was telling Eddie, it's like incredible for me, like that you guys have been in ed tech for a long time, and you sort of really kept that educator DNA. And that's kind of where we are as a company, and that's where we strive to stay. And I just want to say, like, it's just so incredible to be able to have that sort of inside out, you know, thing where you have educators build platforms for themselves, and it's not sort of taking something from corporate world, trying to make fit, and it's like, this is what you guys need. No, we know what we need, we just want to build it, right, as educators.
Yeah, I would love to ask a follow-up question on that, because, you know, you use that word traditional education. Technology that is used for teaching and learning is always going to have some biases, and it might be for more traditional modes, it might be more for student-centered modes. And on the one hand, right, I really appreciate technology that aims to be agnostic, to enable as many teaching philosophies or teaching methods as possible. But I wonder, Narine, Mike, if InSpace has any strong opinions about what technology should do in terms of teaching and how it enables certain kinds of methods or interactions versus others.
Yeah, so I think for ed tech technology to really work and be like truly like help education to go the right direction as we digitize, like, and that's like inevitable. And I think it really needs to be really build on pedagogical foundation, but not just like skewed towards one or the other. For example, I love flipped classroom experiences, and I know I have colleagues who love other pedagogical sort of methods of running their classes. And the goal is like to be able to support them in every possible way. Now, the other side of it is like really being very careful not just to become a set of features, right? I want to quote my friend Eric Mazur from Harvard. Like he really put this really well. He's like, I've seen a lot of video conferencing, and like one of the things is, you guys are not just a collection of features. It's built around things that happen in a real classroom, around things that are actually relevant to teaching and collaboration. And it's founded more in the theory of collaboration and engagement. And I think that's the most important thing. If we can figure out how to keep students engaged and not let the technology to handicap their experience, then teachers will figure out how best it fits into their pedagogical methods and how to use that. And that's sort of my goal in that sense.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you mentioned Eric Mazur. I mean, anybody who's familiar with his work understands the transformation that he has brought to his classrooms by rethinking what a traditional teaching and learning experience should look like, and not relying perhaps just on the satisfaction scores of students, but actually looking at what improves learning outcomes and driving toward increased engagement and increased actual learning. So I think when technology can simplify those kinds of teaching and learning interactions that lead to better outcomes, then we're going to win as a whole. So I love that example.
Absolutely. And if you haven't checked out, folks, like Perusal is the company that Eric is involved with. And it's an amazing social learning platform that I love. It's like really complements with like a lot of the sort of thoughts that we have here in terms of like how engaged active learning happens and how social learning is such an important part of like sort of the future of higher ed. And, so Jared, like to that end, like, so Borders was one of my favorite bookstores. And when they went out of business, it was like really this big moment for me. I was like, brick and mortar schools and, colleges. And so for me, it's so important right now for us to be able to create the tools that work really well in a classroom. So educators adopt it, they don't resist it because it really helps them to do their best work and amplifies their work. So that way we can digitize organically and like sort of be there with our students wherever they are, but also not disrupt education because, we have done such a good job with it. So like we want to be able to have technology that amplifies it.
Well, one thing I want to pull out here from the comments, there have been a few folks who have asked about or suggested different ways that InSpace might integrate with Canvas. And I just want to let the folks know that, what we've seen today, I think and I hope will be the beginning of a number of integrations with Canvas. Our product team is super interested in sitting back down with Narine and team and looking at different ways that we on our end can enable a deeper integration with InSpace and tools like InSpace. So, I think what you're seeing today is super exciting in terms of that integration. I hope that we'll be able to share more with you all in the future as well.
Absolutely. We're super excited to work with the product team at Structure and really bring this two great products together.
Yeah, and also as professors and teachers are using it, we love having these conversations with you all, and many of the folks who we've seen comments for have been integral in helping us figure out the best way to continue building it. So I look forward to meeting more of you all and listening to that, your feedback and what you need in here.
Dr. Narine and Mike, before you go, if folks do have questions, because there are a lot of questions in the chat, and Emmy is crushing it, by the way. She might need a raise after this, but she is going through and trying to comment as much as she can and answering questions as they come through for the InSpace team. So great job, Emmy. Shout out there on the back end for doing all of the fantastic work on the social streams today and getting everybody's questions answered. Although some of them may have been missed, or there may be people that have questions after this or kind of watching it where they can't ask live. Is there a support channel, an email? Where can folks reach InSpace for more questions that they might have, especially with this integration?
Yeah, and I think a question that's going to be on a lot of folks' minds who haven't used InSpace is, how can I try it out? And I think that's what I would encourage folks to do. If it looks cool, get into it and you'll be really surprised. So is there anything, Narine, Mike, that you can share for folks who have questions or who actually want to try it out?
Yeah, sure. So it basically, Narine, I don't know if you can pull up the slide really quick for us, but if anybody wants to try it out, if you go to our website at inspace.chat, you'll see a Canvas button on the upper, on the navigation bar at the top. You can click that and submit a note, and we can get you rolling. You can also start. You can sign up for a demo there as well, and spend some more time with me and some of our other colleagues, and kick the tires on this in more depth. We'd love to spend some more time with you. And our website's going to be the best place to go if you want to reach out to us via email. You can also reach us at support@inspace.chat. So we look forward to hearing from you.
no one's kicking the tires on InSpace. I'm telling you right now. And again, I've just been so excited to see the tool for the first time. Obviously, being in K-12, you know, this has been a primarily higher ed tool for the last year. I went nuts. I was telling all of my friends, I'm tweeting and communicating with everybody that I can think of to check this chat out. If you like what you saw, which I'm sure you did, everyone watching today, please share, like, subscribe, do all of the things so that when this is over, which it will be recorded on all of these channels. So as soon as we're finished, you can use the same link on YouTube, the same link in the community. You'll see the video. You'll be able to share that out. So we do encourage you to do that so that everyone can take a part in what was just, I think, a great session on collaboration and engagement, just a really intuitive feature for our Canvas users. Thank you guys so much. Narine, thank you for joining us. Mike, Jared, as always, VP of Higher Ed Strategy here at Instructure. You guys have just absolutely crushed it. We appreciate it. Thanks everybody out there for watching. The show is now over, and I will stop hyping up what I think is probably one of the coolest ed tech tools I've seen in a long time. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. It was great meeting everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone in the chat. We'll see you soon.